Hey, y'all. I hope all is well. Happy Monday. I know we skipped a week last week. So I hope today is helpful. Um, as I get everything up, just a second here. Let me know where you're watching from. I'm excited to jump in to talk about our topic today. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know how you're feeling. I hope today's topic is helpful as well. I know that this actually isn't one that sorry, there's some feedback here, y'all. I know this isn't one that we voted on, but listen, hey, we here. I picked something. So I hope this is helpful. I hope this gives some insight. I think it's something that we don't necessarily think about. It was one of the things on our list that was voted on before, but we never circled back to. So that's why I went back to this one. But yeah, I'm ready to dive in. If this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I am a certified mindfulness coach and pre-licensed therapist working through my internship right now. And hopefully we'll be finishing hours in testing soon. Super excited about to talk about all of our topics. We talk about different mental health topics every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Usually it's based off of a mindfulness perspective, just because that's what my background has been. But sometimes some of the counseling things creep in, but this is not counseling. Must make that distinction, okay? Now, this is not therapy. This is just informative for you to come in and ask questions, me to provide some insight, and yeah, I hope this is helpful. So if this is your first time, make sure to like this live, share this live with anyone you think that could benefit from it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, why not? Why not? You might as well. You're here, okay? So make sure to hit the subscribe button, and we're going to dive in on our topic, which is making peace with where we are. Making peace with where we are. Ultimately, we a lot of times, especially in society today, we live life in the future, right? We're thinking about the next great, biggest, best thing. And sometimes we often feel like we can't live until we make it to that point. So this is just a conversation about making peace with where we are, being present, being able to live in the moment, maybe thinking about the, different aspects of life that are going well. And even if things aren't going well, finding ways to shift our perspective so that way we're able to make really quality decisions surrounding growth, mindset, perspective, so that way we can live a little bit more in the now. Because oftentimes we spend a lot of time in like anxiety, depression, just sadness, just feeling unhappy with where we are. And because of that, we're not able to see the beauty that's around us. We're not able to see any positives. And we live in more of a negative mindset versus a positive mindset. So that's what this is all about tonight, talking about making peace with where we are. A few things we have. I'm going to just talk through what making peace can mean. Then there's 3 reasons as to why it may be difficult. And then I can talk about how we can begin to make peace with where we are. And then we'll end with a few journaling prompts. So again, I hope this is helpful. Hope it brings some insight. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Welcome in, Quinn. Tanish, I'm obviously talking to you. And then welcome in. Oh, those are the 2 there. Okay, so definitely let me know where you're watching from. If you feel like this is helpful, think that this is going to be helpful, or if there's any questions that you think that will pop up for you or that you have now. Like I said, this is very interactive live. Feel free to ask questions. So what does it mean? Hi, Mark, welcome in. So what does it mean to make peace with where we are? So what does that mean? Sometimes that can look like accepting your current reality, right? Even just facing your current reality. I feel like sometimes it's hard for us to make peace with where we are because it's hard for us to even become aware or be honest about what our reality is. So, accepting your current reality, letting go of unrealistic expectations. So, whether it be timelines or the thought of us always wanting to be happy, or the thought of not wanting to make any mistakes, or the thought of not even wanting to run into any hardships or challenges, right? So, letting go of unrealistic expectations. Another thing that it could mean is recognizing that where you are is a moment in time, not necessarily your identity. So, we're going to talk a lot about core beliefs and narratives tonight because ultimately, what you tell yourself about a particular situation can quickly turn into what you tell yourself in regards to who you are as a person. And sometimes that gets conflicted and can cause more harm than good when we're trying to make sense of things that are happening in our lives, whether it be specific situations, relationships, environments, right? So recognizing that where you are is a moment, it's a snapshot in time. It's not necessarily your identity, or it's not necessarily your entire story. It's just maybe a chapter, it may be a paragraph, it may be just a sentence, it may just be a word in your narrative, right? It may just be a small piece to your story. And sometimes we inflate those narratives to be a lot bigger than what they are. And we take those narratives and make it the whole entire book when it's really just a sentence. Okay, so recognizing that where you are is a moment, it's a snapshot in time, not necessarily your identity or your story. Okay, allowing yourself to be a work in progress, practicing self compassion, right? We're all a work in progress. We're all looking to get better. We're all striving to get stronger and to be a better version of ourselves. And sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of what our progress should look like. And because we have those expectations and we're not meeting those expectations because, granted, they may be unrealistic, and that creates a sense of, again, depression, sadness, anxiety, frustration with self, anger even. Sometimes we may walk around just angry all the time, not necessarily knowing why. Many times it's linked to resentment, unforgiveness, whether it be of others and of self. So that's another one here that what making peace could mean. Allowing yourself to be a work in progress. Also, letting go of comparison. This is a big one. Letting go of comparison between who you are and where you think you should be, right? And it's not necessarily just who you are and who you think or where you think you should be, but also comparing yourself to others and where others are and you thinking that you should be along the same lines of that other person, right? So comparison can look in so many different ways, but it's a big part of why making peace with self may be difficult. Another one, letting go of the past. So past mistakes, past situations, or even just your personal imperfections, right? There's a matter or a level of self-forgiveness or self-unforgiveness that could be happening. So another way that making peace with yourself can look is letting go of your past mistakes, your imperfections. Another way is letting go of the need for certainty or the need to not change, right? Sometimes we feel like things are just familiar. And because something is familiar, we feel like it automatically equates to it being good for us. And in that, it keeps us stagnant, or it keeps us in patterns, or it keeps us in a cycle, right? So keeping that in mind, and this also could be, again, another way that we can make peace with self. And then lastly, letting go of control. Okay, oftentimes we find ourselves unable to make peace with where we are because of the fact that with that, we lose some sense of control, whether it be control of a situation, control of a narrative, right? Control of, we never really have control of other people, but we may think that we have control of other people, right? So letting go of control is another means of making peace. And that's what we'll kind of talk about tonight, okay? So just to go back through those, the way that you could make peace or what it could look like is accepting the current reality, letting go of unrealistic expectations, recognizing that where you are is a moment in time, not your identity, allowing yourself to be a work in progress, letting go of comparison between where you are and where you think you should be, letting go of your past mistakes and imperfections, and letting go of the need for certainty or change, and then lastly, letting go of control. Okay, so 3 reasons why this may be difficult, right? Why does this cause high levels of stress or high levels of anxiety or burnout or even depression, right? Those 3 reasons, and there's probably a lot more reasons, right? Just so you guys know, there's probably a lot more reasons, but I'm just going to go through these top 3. The first one is our core beliefs. Hi, Greg West, welcome in. The first one is our core beliefs. So it could be difficult to make peace with self because of what we believe, right? There is a narrative that we tell ourselves to keep the cycle alive, right? And that's really what not having that peace with self or that acceptance with self, that's what that creates. It creates a cycle or a pattern that has to stay alive based off of the things that we tell ourselves, right? So some of those things may be comparison. Again, like we said, everyone seems to be ahead of me. So that may be a narrative that you're telling yourself that keeps it alive, right? Expectations. I thought I would be further along by now. Something else that we could be telling ourselves over and over and over again. Pressure. I should have this figured out already, right? Something else that we could be having swirling in our mind, a core belief that keeps this cycle going. Self-judgment or shame. So sometimes something must be wrong with me because I'm not where I thought I'd be, right? Just because of our progress, it automatically is linked to identity, and it shows a depiction of who we are as a person versus something that we're actually just experiencing. So with that continues to feed the cycle where we're unable to make peace and have some level of acceptance of where we are, okay? Number 2, we confuse where we are with who we are. That goes back to the shame conversation, right? Just because we're in a certain state where we may think that we should be further along, or we should be somewhere different, or we maybe we never expected to be in this particular situation or at this state, we begin to confuse where we are with who we are as a person. And because of that creates a high level of stress, a high level of anxiety, and even a high level of depression because of the fact that we're not able, we don't see ourselves coming out of it because of us feeding this idea of, this is who I am as a person, right? So a few examples: I'm struggling financially because I am a failure, right? So if I'm struggling financially, instead of that being a separate issue or just an issue that you're experiencing, you may be automatically equating that to you as a person and being a failure, right? I'm single becomes nobody wants me, right? I'm still figuring things out becomes I'm behind. I made a mistake becomes I continue to make bad decisions, right? And this is really just the beginning of what those narratives could look like. And some of this stuff is very unconscious, you guys. Like, some of this is not really something that you probably can pick out right away. It's something that you'll really have to sit and think about, and it may not even be something that will come to mind with you journaling. It may happen in the moment, and you're like, you know what, let me write this down, because this is a narrative, right? This is something that I tell myself often, and it just takes a few extra minutes for you to be become more aware of what you tell yourself and what that looks like. Um, yeah, it's probably behind my thing, and these are new glasses, so yeah, it's probably because it's on this side, but it's fine. Um, but yeah, so that was number 2. We confuse where we are with who we are. That was number 2. Number 3, sometimes we confuse, or not, I wouldn't even say confuse, but acceptance sometimes automatically equals giving up, right? And because we come to some level of acceptance, it feels like we're giving up on ourselves, or we're giving up on our situation. And because of that, we begin to stay in that cycle, right? So we oftentimes just group it together, whereas there is very two distinct differences between acceptance and actually just giving up, right? So acceptance says, this is where I am right now, right? It's just accepting your reality. It is not even a level of judgment that's partnered with it. And there's not even action that's partnered with this acceptance. It's just awareness, and it's a contentment with, this is where I am right now, right? And when it comes to giving up usually has shame attached to it, right? So giving up may look like, this is where I am right now, and this is where I will always be, right? There's that additional attachment of judgment that is on the end of that, right? So acceptance is, this is where I am right now. That's it. That's all. No judgment, no comparison, no, self-pity, no self-doubt. There's nothing that's attached to it. Giving up is, this is where I am right now, but this is also where I'm always going to be. That feeds the cycle, okay? That feeds the cycle of the narrative that we talked about earlier, which then drives you to frustration, anger, resentment, again, burnout, depression, more shame, because shame just piles on top of shame. So that's what causes that spiral, or that continued cycle. Okay. Let me see here. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. So another way that you can kind of move towards acceptance is, you can change the narrative to, I don't love where I am, but I don't have to hate myself to be here, right? Just because you're where you are and you don't like where you are doesn't mean that you have to beat yourself up on top of that, right? Oftentimes we allow that self-judgment to spiral, and with that spiral creates the big emotions, the big frustrations, the big feelings that make your situation even more difficult, right? So that falls into constant comparison, like I said before, shame, anxiety. It causes rushing or false urgency, which is what we've talked about that, I want to say a couple of months ago, as far as like feeling the need to move quickly, and we end up doing things that are irrational, trying to solve the issue or solve the problem because we feel this high level of shame associated to what's happening. Also overworking or pouring ourselves into our work, which creates burnout. Avoidance, again, resentment, like I talked about before. Feeling like you're never doing enough, so just always striving but never really quite getting to where you want to go. Difficulty enjoying what's happening in the present, and then constantly moving the goalposts, right? Once you get to a certain point, then you move it again, and then you get to a certain point, and then you move it again, and then it creates a high level of frustration, and then again resentment, which turns into burnout, which then turns into stress, and then even depression, depending on what else you're experiencing, right? And we end up just spending so much energy trying to get to the next version of ourselves in life versus not living in the now, right? And that gets exhausting, y'all. It gets exhausting to always strive, and not find a level of contentment or peace with where you are. Not to say that this is where you're going to stay, but being able to have some level or make peace with where you are allows you to navigate through growth more easily, or even if strive more easily, because of the fact that it's like, okay, things are okay. I know that I'm trying to make and progress the way that I want to, and I want to move forward, but that constant moving the goalposts, the constant trying to strive and thrive and all of the things can get really tiresome, okay? Let me make sure I'm not missing anything here. Yeah, I don't think that I missed anything there. Okay, so the final question then, how do we begin to make peace? Okay, how do we begin to make peace? We begin making peace by becoming aware, by becoming aware of and shift our perspective of our reality, right? First, we have to become aware. Like I said at the top of the live, sometimes we struggle with this because we're not able to be honest with ourselves of where we are and what we're experiencing, right? We may inflate where we are. Or we may talk more about where we want to be versus where we are. And not to say that that's a bad thing, but oftentimes that takes us out of the reality of our experience, which then causes more, again, frustration, resentment, stress, anxiety, right? So being honest with yourself and stating where you are, but then also where you have those false narratives, shift your perspective of that reality, okay? The hardest part of this isn't always the situation. It often is the internal conflict, the internal argument, or the internal narrative we're having with ourselves, right? And our difficulty with the fact that and also our difficulty with the fact of that we have to even experience the thing, right? Sometimes it's not even the situation. It's like, why do I have to go through this? Why do I have to experience this? Why is this my life? A lot of times it's those questions, right? That cause and feed the cycle that is happening of us, one, not being able to make peace, but then the strong emotions that come alongside with that, okay? So going back to the reality, right? The reality is this is where I am right now. You're able to take the narratives that we're telling ourselves, like going back to this shouldn't be happening, I should be further along, I can't handle this by myself, my life was supposed to look different by now. All of these narratives that we're telling ourselves, all of the self-judgments, right? And begin challenging those narratives without judgment, right? Challenge those narratives and say, okay, who's to say what should or shouldn't be happening, right? Life is life. Mistakes happen. Bad things happen. Frustrations happen. There's a high level of uncertainty. That's just the way that life is, right? And so saying things like, this shouldn't be happening, well, why not? Ask yourself why. Be a little bit more curious as to what's happening versus those blanket statements, right? I should be further along. Who's to say that? Right? Everybody's story is different. Like I said, if it's just a book, everybody's story is going to look different. There's some people who are going to have 20 chapters. Other people are going to have 60 chapters. Some people are going to have, multiple pages or multiple paragraphs in a chapter. Some people may have a chapter that's only one paragraph. There's no telling what someone's life is going to be. So asking yourself, where is this coming from? Where are these comparisons coming from? And what am I comparing it to, right? My life is supposed to look different, right? What does that mean? Being curious about that even more, right? Yeah, we may have had plans, but plans don't always work out. We know that's a reality of life, right? So replaying that my life is supposed to look different over and over again, is that solving the problem? Or can we look at where we are now and strive to make decisions that, even if it's just the next small steps of what we want to see, start focusing and pouring our energy into that versus the rumination of my life is supposed to look different. Okay. And then drive the narrative to acceptance. It's being willing to acknowledge what is happening before deciding what you want to do about it. Okay? I'll say that again. It's being willing to acknowledge what is happening before deciding what you want to do about it. Acknowledge what's happening. Acknowledge it without judgment, right? That's what we're talking about. That's where the shame comes from. So acknowledging without judgment. And then from there, being strategic, being intentional about your perspective and what your next step should look like, right? So you can accept your current reality and still make changes. Some people feel like going back to what we were talking about before, acceptance versus giving up, right? So you can accept your current reality and still make changes. You can accept that you're unhappy, but that doesn't mean that you have to remain unhappy, right? Happiness in itself is temporal, right? Happiness comes and goes. Happiness goes off of what is happening, right? And because we're unhappy in a specific situation or circumstance, doesn't mean that that's going to be us forever. And it doesn't mean that we're going to be unhappy in every situation. Yeah, I'm unhappy in this situation right now. Doesn't mean that I have to be unhappy in other situations right now, okay? Accepting that a relationship isn't working doesn't mean you have to stay or go, right? So accepting what's happening is the first step versus making a rash decision, right? Accepting where you are doesn't mean staying where you are, okay? Sometimes, again, we we state acceptance or think that acceptance and giving up is the same thing. It's not the same. Just because you accept where you are doesn't mean that you're going to just stay there. And that's another narrative we may tell ourselves, like, oh, this is where I'm at. It's never going to change, right? When that's technically not the case. If you're able to make different decisions, you're able to change your perspective, change your mindset, change your actions and behaviors, then you may not be where you are and you may not stay there forever. So it just means you stop wasting energy pretending, avoiding, or suppressing, and it gives you the space to move toward change, right? Once you acknowledge, once you have awareness, once you accept where you are, then that takes out that mental work or that mental exhaustion surrounding that and gives you the space to actually move towards change and make a difference, okay? A few reminders before we do journaling prompts. Again, I hope this is helpful. Let me know in the comments. I hope this is helpful. A few reminders. You don't have to love where you are to make peace with where you are. Goes back to the happiness or unhappiness, right? You don't have to love it to say that I can make peace with it, right? You don't want more. You can want more and still appreciate what exists today. You can want more and still appreciate what exists today. You can still accept where you are and still desire to be better or desire to be more. I think a lot of times we have these internal conflicts and we feel like it has to be either or one versus the other, where many times with these perspectives, two things can be true at the same time, right? And giving yourself the space to say, okay, I have this thing and I believe this thing, but I also believe this thing, and they both are true, right? So you can want more and still appreciate what exists today. You can have goals without turning your current life into a waiting room, okay? Because ultimately, when we spend a lot of times on our goals and the things that we want, our current life, we're just waiting. We're just hoping, we're just wishing to get to that space instead of enjoying where we are, enjoying the process, enjoying the moment, right? And then when we get to that thing or when we get to that situation and it doesn't turn out the way that we intended, or it takes a little bit longer than we intended. Again, resentment and frustration and anger and all of those things begin to build up because right now our life is just waiting. It's in a waiting room. It's not actually in the room and in action, right? So pull yourself out of the waiting room and be present with where you are. And yeah, you may be waiting for that thing, but sometimes, and you ever think about yourself in the waiting room, like if you're in a doctor's office and you're just waiting, it sometimes feels like you're wasting time. Sometimes we do that in life and we just sit in the waiting room and we just waste time instead of just being present in the moment and enjoying the moment as we wait, right? It's the difference between waiting and twiddling our thumbs in a doctor's office versus waiting and maybe getting something done for school, or calling and talking to a friend and connecting, or I'm not even going to say social media, because social media will waste away too, unless you're watching this live. Other than that, it will waste away. But yeah, so just thinking about where is it that you're waiting versus living when it comes to your life, right? Are you on your job and it just feels like you're just on the job, just waiting for that next big thing, right? Or is there a part of your job now that you can enjoy, or a part of your job now that you can appreciate, right? So thinking about that's important, because I feel like a lot of us are living in that way. You can be growing without constantly treating yourself like you're behind, right? Just because you're in the process of growth or just in process in general doesn't mean that you have to treat yourself like you are just 100% behind, or put yourself on punishment in a way, like, oh, I can't do this until this happens. Now, granted, there are some elements of accountability and responsibility that comes with that, but sometimes we go overboard. Sometimes we got to give ourselves permission to rest, or we have to do this and do that, and then we can rest, or instead of it being rest, also being productive, right? So that can look in so many different ways, but understand that you can grow without constantly beating yourself up while you're growing, okay? And then where you are is not the final destination. It's simply where you are today. And that's just as simple as that, right? Reminding yourself that this isn't the final destination. This is not the end all be all. This is temporal. It's not going to be forever. And if you feel like it's going to be forever, what is it about that what is it about that tells you that it's going to be forever? There are some things that are going to be long term, right? There are some things that may be a pain point until the end of time, right? Whether it be like a sickness or a medical issue or an ailment, a learning disability, anything along those lines. Yes, there may be an aspect of that. And it's just a matter of what you do with that and what narrative you tell yourself about that, right? Because if you tell yourself, okay, this is the final destination, I'm doomed, this is like how my life is going to be, and it's just going to be a horrible, horrible life because of that, then that's what you're going to manifest. That's what's going to happen, right? But if you shift your narrative, if you shift your perspective, if you shift your mindset, even if it's just a little bit, it can make all the difference into your outcomes. Okay, I'm going to end here with a few journaling prompts, y'all, that you can take away. Again, I hope this is helpful, y'all. I hope this gave some insight. Okay, journaling prompts. First one, there's 3 here. So the first one is 4. The first one is, if I stop judging myself for where I am, what would I be able to appreciate about my life right now? And this is just a gratitude question, right? If I stop judging myself for where I am right now, what would I be able to appreciate about my life right now? I'll say that one more time. If I stop judging myself for where I am right now, what would I be able to appreciate about my life right now? That was number 1. Number 2, what am I making my current circumstances mean about me? What am I making my current circumstances mean about me? I'll say that one last time. What am I making my current circumstances mean about me? Which just really is the question of asking you, what is it that you tell yourself about yourself regarding your circumstances? Okay? I'll say that again. What is it that you tell yourself about yourself regarding your current circumstances? That's really what that's asking. And then this is 3 questions. So the last one is basically a where am I exercise, which is basically statements that tell you where you are for more awareness. So the where I am exercises starts with right now I am learning, and then blank. So fill in the blank. Right now, I am learning blank. The next one is right now, I am navigating blank. Fill in the blank. Right now, I am navigating blank. The next one is right now, I am grieving blank. And grief doesn't have to be a person. Grief can be someone that passed away. It could be a relationship that was lost. It could be anything that you feel like that you've lost, right? That's no longer in your life. And so it could be someone that passed away. It could be a person that's alive that just isn't around, right? It could be you lost a job. It could be you feel like you lost or failed in a particular situation. Or scenario. So it's not just a person. So right now I am grieving blank. The next one, right now I am building blank. Right now I am building blank. And then the next one is right now I am releasing blank. Fill in the blank. Right now I'm releasing blank. And then the next one is right now I am becoming blank. Right now I am becoming, fill in the blank. We have 2 more here. And then right now I am accepting, fill in the blank. Right now I am accepting blank. And the last one, right now, I am needing blank. Right now, I am needing blank. All right. I hope that was helpful, y'all. Actually, I'll turn my little screen around. Hold on. Let's see so y'all can see this. Okay. So I hope there we go. So right now I am learning, navigating, grieving, building, releasing, becoming, accepting, needing. Okay? Those are the options. All right, y'all. I hope this is helpful, y'all. I really do. I know that this is one that I picked. But I hope that it brings some helpful knowledge, something that you can use either now or down the line. I make sure that, I don't necessarily need to go back through anything. I think I did go back through pretty much everything. So that's it, y'all. I know that, where we at? We are at August 10th. So we will be doing lives until the end of August. And I am actually going to go on a hiatus. This is why. I am coming towards the end of my program, and I do have to start prepping for my certification test. It is a 200-item test that I have to take for my certification for being a therapist, right? And so since I will actually start taking that next quarter and prepping for that next quarter, I have to devote my time to studying. So at the end of August will be the end, And then I probably will be on hiatus until the end of the year, until I certify. So please, please, please make sure to go back and watch any videos that you feel that would be helpful for you as we're going through. There's so many videos on my channel, you guys, so many. So I think at this point it's okay that I can take a bit of a break and prep for my testing. And then we'll have a live every Monday until the end of the month. And I'll post a poll at the end of this week, so that way we can vote on those topics. And then after August, we'll be set until, I'm hoping until the new year. I'm hoping that I'll be able to test by then, but I'll keep you guys all up to date until then. Again, if this is your first time, my name is Debbie. I am a certified mindfulness coach and therapist in training, currently doing my internship. As you can hear, preparing for my certification test. And it's a national test, y'all. So it's definitely a big deal. I gotta study. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. You can always email me at info@haveninspired.com. You can always go to haveninspired.com and sign up for the newsletter to get the updated emails on a weekly basis just about our topics. Otherwise, I hope to see you all next Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe. I appreciate you subscribing ahead of time. And other than that, I'll see y'all